If you clicked on this video, I'm assuming you're aware that Smiling Friends is now officially over. And if you don't and this is how you're finding out, then I'm so sorry. Now, listen, I'm grieving it just as much as you guys. However, instead of performing a seance or casting Curse of Ra upon Zach Hadel and Michael Cusack, I think a better call would be to take this opportunity to put the show under the microscope. In the video that went up in February of this year, Zach and Michael said that they wanted this show to leave us wanting more by its end, and that they didn't want to just have it go on and on while they were burnt out or pass it on to somebody else. Because, let's face it, when they said they didn't want this show to be the one people hear about and say, God, that's still on the air, we all know what show they're talking about. The intention was clear. Smiling Friends needed to end before it could reach its peak and dip off. So let's take a look together. How well did Smiling Friends 3 seasons age now that we can view it as a final finished product? And did it truly end on a high note? As always, I'm going to give my thoughts, discuss and analyze things with you, and then leave the floor to you guys. Oh, and this time we're going to be shaking things up. As we're analyzing the series, I'm going to do a tier list, and we're going to rank every episode of the show. All 26 of them. But enough talk.
Let's get down to business.
Okay, so I'm gonna take it upon myself and say that it's probably been a while since you've sat down and watched Smiling Friends front to back. However, I'm also willing to bet your memory of these episodes isn't so bad you need me to needlessly toil over every plot detail of every single one. That, and I want to make sure my videos are only just long enough for you to finish your lunch or your dinner or your drawing or whatever it is you do when you've got my videos on. So we're gonna do this the big IQ way. We're gonna section this video off by season instead of by episode. So while I will be giving my thoughts on each episode, I'm not gonna go super duper in depth just because, again, I don't want this video to be longer than, say, 30 minutes if I can help it. Besides, the quicker we can get to the last 2 episodes that just came out, the better. But why a tier list, right? These things are entirely subjective and opinionated and aren't typically used for the sake of analyzing stuff. Well, I think for a show like Smiling Friends, considering it's not some serialized narrative, I can use this as a good way of visualizing my thoughts, if that makes sense. And it also gives you guys a more clear way of cooking me if one of my takes is bad. Speaking of takes, the pilot episode, Desmond's Big Day Out. You want to know something funny? When I was rewatching this show, I forgot that this was the pilot, which I know that might sound kind of crazy at first, but granted, all the memories came flooding back as soon as I saw it in the episode list, but I think there's a really kind of specific reason for that. If you're a returning viewer on my channel, I'm assuming that you're a fan of Glitch Productions, and typically the way they do pilots is very different from how a pilot ought to be. The Amazing Digital Circus and Murder Drones and all that stuff, their pilots were just their episode 1. That is incredibly unorthodox. Typically, a pilot is meant to just give the audience, and if applicable the network, a good idea of what the average episode of the show is going to look like without trying to set up some large overarching story or really having many of the final details of the main show in place yet. If you watched a whole lot of cartoons, then this is why a lot of cartoon pilots are not canon. And don't get me wrong, Desmond's Day Out absolutely accomplishes what a pilot is supposed to do. I mean, clearly it did, right? It was greenlit immediately. It's just the fact that there's another season 1 episode that just so encapsulates what Smiling Friends would go on to become for the rest of the series that going back to this episode, there's almost a bit of whiplash that happens, where it's like, oh man, it really did change. And maybe it's just me, but I think really the scene that makes me feel this way is our introduction to Mr. Boss. Because of course, Mr. Boss is a total freak and I love him for it, but this introductory scene with him is so much more obligatorily, is that a word, obligatorily? Uncanny, creepy Newgrounds animation, if that makes sense. And while obviously that's the vibe of this entire show, you can't look me in the eyes and say that they didn't kind of go in a different direction with Mr. Boss over time. Because this is the only thing Mr. Boss does for the entire episode, and I almost completely forgot about that. So yeah, just coming back to this was like, oh man, Mr. Boss, I'm so glad that they did more with this character, because he's one of my favorites for sure. Just out of respect, I gotta place Desmond's Big Day Out in A tier immediately, boom. I feel a little similarly about the second episode, but you can already kind of start to feel the show coming into its own here, and Mr. Frog is hilarious. This episode also gives us not 1, but 2 mentions of Charlie's uncle, so put a little counter up on the screen or something like that. Episode 3 was funny as well. I don't know, maybe I'm just an asshole, but I didn't really give a shit about Pim's little crush. S'morm was great, S'morm should have stayed. And the ending part with Shrimp, listen, I thought it was just a little bit predictable. Just a little bit. You can kind of see the punchline coming from a mile away, at least in my opinion. Especially because this is not the last time the same punchline is used, but we'll talk about that later. So while these are great episodes, I don't think they belong in C tier. They're both B tier episodes, boom boom. But hey, if you want to use this tier list for yourself, the link's in the description, alongside my socials and stuff, which you should absolutely follow after you like and subscribe.
subscribe if you're enjoying so far.
Now, season 1, episode 4 is the first time we get to see Pim subjected to the horrors, and I've got some really good thoughts on this episode. As a quick refresher, this is the one where they're all celebrating Halloween, and then Charlie says something along the lines of, you know, I don't like to celebrate Halloween, I don't know what's gonna be offensive in X amount of years, and that's how people get canceled, yada yada yada. And then after the Force Demon chases Pim back into the office, everybody accuses him of doing blackface, and then they tear him apart and they eat him, and then Charlie's like, you see that right there? That's why I don't dress up for Halloween. And now I promise this is relevant, but one of the effects I've seen on the internet in terms of this show is something I like to call the reverse Cartman effect with Charlie, where everything he says, there will be that crowd on Twitter or wherever else that is like, this is reflective of what the actual showrunners think or something. Even though I highly doubt Zach and Michael are like, well, Halloween is stupid because if you wear the wrong costume, you'll get eaten alive and beaten the shit out of. It's a funny bit. You know what I mean? South Park may have inspired Smiling Friends, but they are nowhere near the same show. Smiling Friends isn't trying to have some poignant message at the end of every episode or some noteworthy commentary. Not that it's not present at all, or that there's not some allusions to things in the real world, but if you're looking for political alignment from Smiling Friends, I don't know what to tell you. Besides, in a lot of ways, Charlie is very much a caricature of a very specific type of individual, and this is why I say this is relevant, because he does kind of have an arc over this season, and that even kind of stretches out to seasons 2 and 3 as well, and particularly the final episodes, which I cannot wait to talk about. Because yes, like I said, this show is not serialized. There is like those bits of continuity here and there that just make it really worthwhile to watch start to finish. For now though, this episode was really funny. I think this is gonna be our second A tier, boom. Oh yeah, before we move on, this episode's also the first appearance of Zoe, which is, you know, the crazy thing is, this character is meant to be Charlie's girlfriend, and her name is never actually said once. Can you believe that? And now this isn't like a major criticism or anything, but I do wish we got to see more of this character, because I think in total she only shows up like 4 times. You can probably count how many speaking lines she has on your hands. Now I could not wait to talk about this episode. Who violently murdered Simon S. Salty? Do you guys know who it is playing Simon S. Salty? Because I'm gonna tell you all about him right now. This is Perry Caravello. You can still find him streaming to this day, but the most noteworthy thing I can say about him is that he starred in the 2003 Comedy Central movie Windy City Heat, in which Jimmy Kimmel and a bunch of Perry's friends play the most elaborate joke I've ever seen played on anybody, and it's all in this movie. Basically, they tell Perry that he's going to star in some new crime film, and over time they set up the most just ridiculous scripted events to go down on set. It's borderline slapstick what goes down. These days he's not so much of a star and is instead the host of Perry Caravello Live over on Twitch. Sometimes people will like green screen stuff into his Ring doorbell camera, and then he gets up and he's like, who the hell is out there? And it'll be like Ronald McDonald or something. So imagine my shock when I saw him in this episode for the first time when it came out. Congratulations, Perry. You're a worldwide superstar once again. The funny thing is, he actually works perfectly for this role. I don't know if they came up with this character with him in mind, but like seriously, he's funny. And honestly, it kind of makes me want to see him in more stuff. I don't know. Watch, somebody now in the comments is gonna tell me he did some crazy outrageous shit. Just watch. Speaking of this episode and people who did crazy outrageous shit, did you know Chris Chan was actually supposed to voice the grease puddle? Yeah, that was before any of the, you know, the mom stuff, but even the person who's doing the voice in this episode is trying to do a Chris Chan impression. Just thought you should know that. But yeah, you know, this episode is great. And honestly, I think this is gonna go top of A tier for now, boom. Now, listen, I don't think episode 6 is bad, but I did not care for the Enchanted Forest. I don't know. I understand this is meant to be kind of a departure from the typical Smiling Friends episode, but to me, this one feels like the weakest season 1 episode. It's not like I was neutral-faced the whole time, but definitely, for me anyways, was kind of a step down compared to everything else. And typically, I know I would kind of have some kind of poignant analyzation of it, but it just genuinely, I just didn't care for it, which is made so much worse by what came immediately after. So I think comparatively to the rest of the show, I have to put this one in C tier. On the other hand, Episode 7 is the best episode of the first season, and I will die on that hill. This is the episode I thought was going to play when I put on the very first episode of the show. It just does not miss a beat. Every single time I rewatch this one, it's always great. Mr. Boss is just incredible in this one. This is where he really starts to play a big role in the show. And it feels like every single gag from this ended up being really long-lasting in more ways than, like, everything else. Like, dude, we got DJ Spit from this episode. I could talk about it for so long, but, dude, come on. S tier, instantly. Episode 8. wait, Charlie dies and doesn't come back. Yeah, this is where we kind of see that little arc I was talking about with Charlie. The guy literally goes to hell in this episode. And this is also where it's kind of acknowledged that he is, you know, a bit of an asshole. Now, Pim, sometimes his positivity can be a little obnoxious, and that ends up being the focal point of a later episode too. But come on, Charlie's whole alpha male shtick, like seriously, Satan was also really great in this. Like him like ordering the Uber Eats or whatever. That always gets like a huge kick out of me. Not really much to say here, you know, it immediately goes in the A tier. Above even Perry's episode, you know? And apparently the Brazil special also counts as season 1, even though that was a special that aired so much later than everything else. I think just off of principle, I have to rank this right smack dab in the middle of A tier, because I literally cannot think of any other show that could get me to sit through something like that. Smiling Friends is truly a one-of-a-kind show. Now, I know a lot of you probably know this one already, but originally Smiling Friends was conceptualized as Little Helpers, and it was gonna look entirely different. And just based off this image, I'm gonna have my editor throw up on the screen right here. Thank you, Cerbera. I don't know. I can't imagine that it would have taken off. I'm sure it would have been really funny, but man, imagine that alternate universe. Now, with us being at the end of season 1 and 10 minutes into the video, look at our tier list so far. What an incredible start for a new show. As far as I'm concerned, there's only one episode that's a little bit weaker than the rest, and even then it wasn't bad. Frowning Friends for me is absolutely the standout episode, but it was clear even at this point that there was so much more they could do with the show, and more that they wanted to do. There's an interview from some time ago where they talk about this, but I think they offhandedly mentioned the idea of a Smiling Friends season 8 in a conversation that's basically about, you know, shows that go on for longer than 10 seasons end up losing their spark. And Michael says something along the lines of that limit in their head making them focus on every episode as much as possible and making them all the best they can possibly be. So hey, let's get into season 2 and see how the distribution changes. And spoiler warning, there's going to be way more S tiers going forward. I fucking love Gwimbly. What an incredible start to the second season, man. Everything from the way Gwimbly's animated to the stupid cameo bit, and everything with that damn, like, CEO is, oh my god. I'm not gonna be greedy and drop it into S tier just off the bat, but I am gonna smack it right dab into the top of A, because I think this is better than most of season 1 already. I love this episode so much. Okay, so Mr. President is one of those episodes where it also kind of had the reverse Cartman effect, and to their credit, just so I'm not completely bashing on people, this time I can kind of see the merit just a little bit more. Like Mr. Frog starting off as a TV celebrity and then getting into politics. It's kind of hard not to see the resemblance. But at the end of the day, again, this is fucking Smiling Friends we're talking about. It's all satirical. And it's pretty alright, too. Now, unlike with Perry, I'm not as knowledgeable on Mike Boschetti, the person who plays President Jimble in this episode. I think I pronounced his name correctly. But it was still a pretty good time. I don't know, maybe I've got a thing with Mr. Frog or something, but I think I'm gonna put this episode at the top of B, just bang. I love an Allan episode so much, and you can just really tell that this is where they start to go crazy. Specifically in terms of the visual presentation, because oh my god, like Allan goes through so much shit in this episode. And the whole thing being orchestrated by his landlord, whose motivations are literally just,
"Will you come hang out with me and smoke weed and fill our bellies with diet soda and play Burnout Revenge on the PS2?
The way he says PS2 has been living in my head rent-free since this episode came out. Unironically, I think this is the best episode of the show so far. I love Allan, I love the landlord, DJ Spit's back. Again, this is just one of those episodes that gets non-stop laughs out of me, and it's a comedy. You know, that's what it's meant to do. I think for me, what makes a weaker episode of a show like this is when I feel like something is predictable or like cliche. But with this episode, all of the punchlines and all the bits and everything just feel so unapologetically Smiling Friends, if that makes sense. And so it just makes me love it that much more. And so I have no choice. Top of S tier so far. And it's crazy because the boss finds love is the exact opposite. I felt this episode was incredibly predictable. The most so far out of every episode in this show. It might be the only time where I feel like, at least comparatively to other Smiling Friends episodes, nothing actually happened. Which is insane because the Brazil special exists. And the only thing they do in that episode is argue in an airport. You wanna know the highlight? Doug Walker showing up halfway through. We also get another Charlie's uncle mention in this, so add that to the counter. Charlie's uncle was the one who gave Charlie that creepy ass doll that jump scares Allan. And honestly, that got me too, but it might be because I'm like a bit of a pussy. But yeah, no, this one fell flat for me. However, I am going to put it above Enchanted Forest because the stupid Dr. Monster thing makes me laugh an unreasonable amount every time. I don't know what it is, but it doesn't matter. It's going in C tier right above Enchanted Forest. The next episode is just beautiful. Brother's Egg. This one's got like a beautiful message about brotherhood and family, and I love this episode. It's fucking hilarious, man. Everything going on with Dr. Psychotic made me laugh in this one. And who can forget Stop Fighting? You know, maybe I'm crazy for this, but I think this is genuinely another A-tier episode. I might put this, where is it gonna go? Boom, right there, right above Desmond's Big Day Out, but beneath Smiling Friends Go to Brazil. I know, I like that episode an unreasonable amount, I think. Charlie, Pim, and Bill versus the alien is another incredible episode. Not just because the premise is great and I love the setting change and everything, but because the payoff for this one was so satisfying. Genuinely, I have not laughed that hard at any of the other payoffs for any of the other episodes. The ending for this one was just so ridiculous and was set up so well. Dude, I'm serious. The first time I watched this episode, I couldn't believe my eyes. I was right there with Charlie and Pim, like, holy shit, the earth is flat. It's exactly what I mean when I say, like, unpredictability and good setup and payoff is what makes an incredible comedy. And so, genuinely, that's the second S-tier episode of season 2, the third one overall for me. Even a one-up from Allan Adventure. I don't know if I have any hot takes yet. Let me know in the comments. Before I forget, yes, add another Charlie's uncle count. Apparently, he was a part of a band called the Red Gapers, and he would use a theremin, which, funnily enough, ends up summoning the aliens in this episode in the first place. And next up is no. We're not even gonna start with the Magical Red Jewel episode, okay? No. They fired Tyler in this episode? No, fuck this, man. D-tier episode. This is a D-tier episode. Fuck you. You're going to hell for this. You're going to hell for what you did. Also, the jump scare at the end of this unironically got me. Not only on the first time, but also on the rewatch because I completely forgot that it was there. So additional you. Season finale was great. You know, I love the Master Shake snowman. We got some good Pim stuff going on here as opposed to Charlie in the season 1 finale. And we really got to see the full extent of how far his, like, chronic optimism will go. I don't know if that's kind of a reach to be talking about a Smiling Friends character, but I don't know, I thought it was fun. Pim is so desperate to maintain the snowman's life, even though it's just a completely pointless endeavor. And Charlie, thankfully, genuinely does try to help out here. Another Charlie's uncle mentioned, but yeah, apparently he knows Bill Nye, and I mean, he f***ing dies, because of course he dies, he's Smiling Friends. But wow. Oh man, Charlie's uncle is coming in clutch once again. I wonder if we'll ever get to meet him. And by the end, it just completely backfires. Like, that shit was hilarious. And just becoming the water. And with the fact that we know continuity is a thing in this show, it's just like, man, Rotten really is just the earth now. So all around a really solid episode, you know? Couldn't just be me reading too deep into it, but I thought there was some solid character exploration here. And yeah, it's very fun. I don't know if I like it more than Charlie dies and doesn't come back, so I'm gonna place it in high A right underneath it. Bing, bang, boom. So here we are at the end of season 2, and wow, obviously not counting how dirty they did Tyler. I mean, look at this. We got 2 more S-tier episodes. They've capitalized on everything that season 1 was lacking. Like, we got more of Allan and Glep. We got way more Mr. Boss. And as all good season 2s do, the show is fully coming into its own here. I feel as though this is where its identity is just set in stone. And we as the audience knew exactly what to expect with a 3rd season. It's only up from here. Dude. Season 3 starts off with a fucking banger, man. Silly Samuel is one of the best episodes in this show. And this time I actually do believe the people that say there's some commentary going on here. As someone who admittedly has kept up with a lot of different lolcow people over the years, just through a lot of YouTube videos and genuine just exposure out in the wild, it could not be more clear to me just on first watch, and even more so upon rewatch. For those of you who need a refresher, Silly Samuel literally cannot help the way he looks at all. And so just him existing attracts ridicule and jokes. And because he lashes out and gets so angry about it, I mean, the guy literally cannot control his temperament at all. It only makes it worse. It is a vicious cycle. And honestly, in a lot of cases, that is exactly how it happens with real lolcows, which can be very tragic a lot of the time. And it is pretty inarguable. The people that are pointing and laughing at him are more crazy than Silly Samuel himself. Like, holy shit, it was almost scary. Now, granted, he starts being worshipped as a prophet, which does not typically happen to lolcows. Truth be told, I don't know if that should happen. And also paired up with the fact that they wanted Chris Chan on here at one point, and Perry Caravello was also the star of another episode, I guess kind of the star. You could argue that it's not necessarily trying to critique lolcow culture, but that's just the way it looks to me. And the side plot with Mr. Boss and Allan and the inspection guy is just that the shit was so funny. And so this ends up being an incredibly memorable episode. So for me, this just goes in S tier just immediately. Now, recency bias is probably taking over, even though I just rewatched the whole show, but I feel like they're constantly one-upping themselves, just again and again and again. And just looking at everything right now, it just feels right that so far that this is the best episode of the show, at least up to this point. And now we come to season 3, episode 2, Le Voyage Incroyable de Monsieur Grenouille. I came to a hard realization with this. And even though I saw 1,000,001 people on animation Twitter or whatever praising the scene with Mr. Frog's dad, this was a hard pill to swallow. I think I just don't find Mr. Frog very funny. Which is insane, because in my mind's eye, he's one of the most iconic characters from this entire show. I don't know what it is. I don't think he does it for me. I kind of have to group this one in with the other ones. Like, sure, what they did with Mr. Frog's dad, like damn, the writing was kind of on point there. So just out of respect, I think I'm gonna put it at the top of B. But can I put it above any of the episodes in A or any of the episodes in S? God forbid, in good faith? No. I can't. I really can't. I shit you not. I've been sitting here toiling over myself, trying to figure out what it is and if I could put it in an eloquent way for you. But like with all comedies, some things just hit better than others. I'm sure there's some stuff that I found funny about these episodes that you're just like, huh? Really? And it's interesting because this episode is clearly meant to kind of be a send-off for the character as a whole. And at this time, we were under the assumption that this show would get 2 more seasons, that it was already greenlit for 2 more. So it's starting to make me think that even Zach and Michael were like, oh, okay, yeah, I think this character's time is up. Which ironically really worked in their favor because this ended up being the last season of the show as a whole. And that lets me segue into the next episode really well too, Mole Man. Remember how I said that the punchline at the end of the shrimp episode would appear again in another episode? Well, yeah, this is it. And you want to know the crazy thing that I'm realizing as I'm recording this? There's way more that ended up being rehashed in this episode too. Not only are Mole Man and Shrimp both voiced by David Firth, the creator of Salad Fingers, but again, that punchline at the end where the human woman with the normal voice falls head over heels in love with him and you're meant to be all like surprised, like, oh, I wasn't expecting that, that's funny. But even both women are voiced by Erica Lindbeck. But with this episode kind of doing the parody of the whole obsessed fan thing and doesn't really understand the humor, but is still trying to insert themselves into the dynamic anyway, what you get out of this is genuinely just a better version of the Shrimp episode. Just put a pin in that thought for now though, because I'm gonna circle back to it later. I'm gonna put it in high A tier, I think. The punchline definitely brings it down a little bit for me. I know I'm being like a stingy asshole, but overall it is a funny episode. I just can't put it higher than some of the other ones here for that reason. You know what I mean? We've also got our Halloween episode for this season, Curse of the Green Halloween Witch. And this is the most just like tried and true horror episode of the entire show. Like, goddamn. Maybe I'm SpongeBob roller coaster gifting again, but like, dude, I thought a lot of the visuals in this were genuinely just like disturbing. In a really good way though.
Pim has finally reached his breaking point. See what happens when Pim goes crazy and evil and kills everybody.
It took me a really long time to stop sitting around going like,
I damn you, I damn you, I damn you.
Just what a great episode. I'm gonna put that right at the bottom of S tier. I think I like it more than all the ones beneath it, but not more than any of the ones above it, which, you know, that's exactly how a tier list works. What the hell? Oh yeah, and Charlie's uncle mentioned, again, with the whole power of Christ compels you thing. Season 3, episode 5, Pim and Charlie Save Mother Nature is a pretty good one too. This is just like cheese in a basket for me because of the repeated references to Super Monkey Ball, and I love Super Monkey Ball. So that already gets this 1 point from me. All the little nature claymation things that were really well animated, and they kind of reminded me of the Christmas critter things from South Park, you know, the ones that like the demon things that torture Stan. Just holy shit, what was going on with Alan and Mr. Boss, dude? The thing with the brown blur was just once Mr. Boss tells Charlie what it actually was, and you go back and look at the picture again, it's just like, oh, yeah, that is exactly what that is, isn't it? That's just his asshole. We also got a little bit more of Charlie doing that thing where he's like pretending to be all like cool and stuff, saying like, oh yeah, I could totally be a CIA agent or something, dude. I could be a spy. I think we've all met at least one person like that in our lives. So just seeing that as a character in a show like this, I know I've commented on it a little bit before, but just all the characters in this are so great. I love Pim and Charlie and everybody else. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have too many thoughts on this one. I thought it was solid. I'm thinking I'm gonna put it right underneath the Simon and Salty episode in A tier. It's worthy. Now I'm just gonna spoil it for you right now. The next 3 episodes are back-to-back S tiers. Squim Returns is incredible for so many reasons. First of all, Squim is animated spectacularly. The A and B plots feel so well orchestrated, even by Smiling Friend standards, which is a good thing, by the way. The plots are usually very well synchronized, despite all the crazy, chaotic bullshit always going on. Just like Mr. Boss finding out that Charlie was skipping work just by having him added on Steam. Like, come on, dude. This is another one of those ones that just does not miss a beat for me whatsoever. And it is also home to literally my favorite sequence in the entire show, when Charlie's stumbling off the bus and it's like, I told you, man, the devil. That entire like rhythmic sequence when the parasite kebab is just kicking his ass. Absolutely insane. So it should come as no shock to anybody that this is my favorite episode. Like top of S tier, by far my favorite episode. Kaboom. Also, real quick, the post-credit scene for this episode is funny because I saw people trying to claim that this caricature on the left was meant to be transphobic. which doesn't make any sense to me because, like, look at Allan. He's in a Madoka cosplay, and that wasn't made into some kind of ridicule or bit against him. The big ugly weeaboo coming and harassing people at conventions has been a joke from time memoriam. And if it's something that makes you uncomfortable, then yeah, like, you're completely within your freedom to feel that way. But to claim transphobia, I think, is just like, you're reaching at that point, at least in my eyes. Maybe I don't have the authority to speak on that, but that's just the way I see it. I definitely like your thoughts on that, though, if you have any more in-depth thoughts on it, especially from anybody who is trans watching. The Schmaloogle episode with the bootleg Smurfs was also just like, the entire interaction between this fake-ass Gargamel and Pim is unironically some of the best comedy in this show. I don't care. The first time I watched this episode, I literally could not stop wheezing, because even though I've never met somebody like this, I can absolutely imagine that this is somebody that they have interacted with before that has made these exact points. I do not doubt that this is a pipeline that some people fall into. Listen, if your hair is thinning, it's okay. You don't have to kill all the Smurfs to fix it. It's right up there with Squim Returns for me, like right above Silly Samuel as well. And dude, the Glep lore episode, it's beautiful. I entirely believe that he started the bubonic plague. I mean, who else would? This one is genuinely so entertaining to me. And it feels so appropriate that the last episode of season 3, at least at the time, showed us the origins of Smiling Friends. And how it was Glep that made Mr. Boss smile. What a heartwarming origin story. Beautiful, just beautiful. It's going in S tier. Right above Frowning Friends, I'd say. So, here we are at the end of season 3, and this is exactly why I chose a tier list for this video. Like I said, this completely visualizes my thoughts on this perfectly. This show only got better and better over time. Most of S tier is season 3 episodes. Hell, most of season 3 is in S tier. At least in my opinion, the top 3 best episodes in the entire show all come from season 3. However, the interesting thing is, I also think we can look to this season for clues as to what led Zach and Michael to decide that this was the time for the show to end. And yes, it does have to do with this season's Mr. Frog episode, and it does have to do with the Mole Man too. We already talked earlier about why I think they might have thought that now was a good time to say goodbye to Mr. Frog, even though at the time everybody was under the assumption that there'd be season 4 and 5 of Smiling Friends. But I think Mole Man rehashing some of the ideas from Shrimp's Odyssey is also incredibly telling, because if you've seen any interviews with this show's showrunners, you'll know they're not stupid, right? They're incredibly intelligent people. And I think they knew that Mole Man was rehashing ideas and jokes too. And obviously they're not a carbon copy of one another, but the similarities are undeniable. And while other factors like burnout and stuff also definitely play a part, I think this, tied with how great most of season 3 absolutely is, had a hand in this decision. If they're already going over some of the same material, who's to say that season 4 won't have as many S tier episodes as season 3? Now, considering this video is going up not even a week after Smiling Friends ended, I'm gonna assume all of the episodes are fresh in your mind. If you're watching this video sometime in the future, then you should have rewatched them by now, come on. Now, we were told that these episodes would not be some grand finale, and would be more so just standard Smiling Friends episodes, grouped in with the 3rd season. These weren't even pushed as a special like the Brazil one. And if you watch these episodes, then, dude, you'll realize that despite being good in their own right, they're not even the show's best. And now you might be wondering, well, ronbrazy, the title of this video and the thumbnail is talking about Smiling Friends ending on a high note, so what are you saying right now? Well, I think there was a goal with these episodes, one that they accomplished spectacularly. Like I mentioned at the start of this video, Zach and Michael said in their announcement that Smiling Friends was to end that they wanted to leave us wanting more. However, they also mentioned that they were told that they could come back to the show if they wanted to. So these episodes needed to equally serve as a finale in case they don't come back, while also not being so definitive that it locks them out of the show forever, which also explains why they're grouped in with season 3 and weren't pushed as some kind of special. But let's reflect on what actually goes down in these episodes in a metatextual sense. And again, I hate to be the guy that's sitting around overanalyzing Smiling Friends, but dude, the first of these 2 episodes straight up shows our cast going into AI psychosis. And let's face it, there's gonna be a lot of Charlies out there that get a kick out of seeing Pim and Allan and Glep getting turned into hot dogs. There's gonna be people that try to keep this series going with their AI generated slop. And whether that's what they wanted us to be thinking about or not, I think that's an incredibly fitting thing to tackle for what could be one of the last episodes of this show. A show that's been so impactful impactful and has its roots in indie animation. A show that celebrates its community so earnestly. I mean, look at this. In this same exact episode, that Allan fangirl with the life-sized plushie of him gets the biggest homage I've ever seen to a singular fan in any animated series ever. Period. Full stop. And we've been counting all the times Charlie has mentioned his uncle. And what's the last episode of Smiling Friends, presumably? Charlie's uncle dies and doesn't come back. And of course this episode is riddled with gags like any good Smiling Friends episode ought to be. The real climax of the drama here has Charlie standing up for himself. And not just for himself either, but for Pim too. He cuts the nonchalant bullshit and decks the motherfucker in the face. After all the hyping up Charlie does of his uncle, and after it is recontextualized by the reveal that he's an abusive asshole, he goes in and he sucker punches the guy. Something I've failed to really keep track of and comment on as I've been talking about these episodes is the way I've kind of, and maybe this is just headcanon, but felt Charlie and Pim's bond get stronger. I mean, just look at the way they argue when Charlie dies and doesn't come back, and then compare that to their bond here, and the way Charlie fearlessly intervenes when Pim is in danger. Oh man, I really am overanalyzing Smiling Friends now, aren't I? For the returning viewers on this channel, you're probably smacking your forehead like, here he goes talking about the intention of the artist again. But I really don't think these episodes needed to be some crazy finale or some huge send-off. I think they accomplished exactly what they wanted to. They proved that Smiling Friends doesn't need something like that to be remembered as an incredible show. And yeah, I'll admit it, I think both of these are A-tier episodes, and I'll put them right at the top just out of respect. But I think that's the incredible thing, because viewing them like this, I think I'm always going to cherish these episodes in a special way, even if I don't necessarily love them more than my top favorites. And honestly, I think you should too. That's all for today. Thanks for sticking around till the end. But before you go, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and let me know your thoughts. How do you feel about Smiling Friends? Were you happy with the ending? And if there's anything you want me to cover, let me know. Also, give lots of love to Starboy, the main artist of this entire channel, and Sabera, the editor of all these new videos that I've been coming out with each week, and the Train Nerd as well, who makes the beautiful outro songs. And lastly, thank you all for almost 9,000 subscribers on this channel. I know I say it at the end of every video, but this community is growing incredibly fast, and I could not be happier. Anywho, I hope to get discussing with you guys in the comments. And as always, this has been ronbrazy, and I'll be seeing you all next time. Catch you later, y'all.
We are the Smiling Friends. We'll always make your day. And if you think we can't, we wash that frown away. That's why the people of this world go again. Pim Pimling, Mr. Allan
and Charlie.